Hello. Welcome to the Dave Gaming Gamer Muscle OnlyFans. What's going on with Rennsport? Well, I'm here outside of the sim rig in a very snowy Munich because Rennsport are showing off their latest update. New championship mode, new cars, new tracks, and a whole host of new features. We're going to head off inside to that building that's behind that vintage Deutsche Bahn carriage, and I'm going to see what's going on in the land of Rennsport. I also would like a doner kebab because it's bloody freezing here. So we enter inside the bizarre cold storage bunker where this event is taking place, and on the side here you can see we have an introduction, a taster to what's coming to Rennsport. We have some new vintage Porsches, a Mercedes, and the next sector of posters with Michael who's setting up an interview. We've got the vintage DTM, so a bit of a hint as to what's coming to Rennsport. Then over here we have ourselves some rather nice cars to look at. We have a Porsche Cup car, the new one, an actual Porsche 98 GT1, and I believe this is a KTM GT2 car. I've only seen the GT4 KTM in person. This is all new to me, but it's very nice that they've got these vehicles set up here. I have asked if I can sit inside this one. Sadly, I'm too fat. They've set up all the simulators here, how they had it in the original Rennsport R1 event. It's said that if all these simulators are on at the same time and all the aliens are set in lap times at the same time, a portal opens and they can escape back home to where they originally came from. I'm going to be jumping onto one of these simulators and we're going to give a test and see what's changed with Rennsport and try some of the new content out. So let's get on a rig and hopefully not break it for whoever is driving our rig later on for the esports racing. Right, so we've got here some of the new content that's in Rennsport. The Porsche and Le Mans. So after having done a little bit of driving, what sticks out to me with this so far is that the track models, like the other tracks in the game, I think look really, really nice. Obviously they're using Unreal 5 engine, so you get really nice sort of modern generation graphics, lighting, shading, and there's also just a ton of objects and details. You can see that Rennsport have put a lot of effort into all the track paraphernalia, signs, buildings, and you know, a track like Le Mans, you have all the trees as well. Absolutely fantastic. Now the downside of that though is, of course, if you're familiar with Unreal Engine, you do get, it's quite hard to run and make it look really sharp if you're on a lower end computer. In fairness though, actually on the console versions of this is a PC version, I actually think they've done a really good job of making it look really quite nice and run okay on the console relative to other console racing titles. But yeah, on PC you just can't get it to be as crisp as what you'd expect with many PC games relative to the performance of your computer. But if you've got a fast PC, it looks absolutely phenomenal. Trees, proper 3D trees, the grass, very long. They still don't have lawnmowers in Rennsport land. So the track graphics, I say, absolutely fantastic. The Porsche, one of my favourite vehicles, amazing cockpit to be sat in, amazing view. What more could you want from a race car in a racing game? Really great to see vintage cars like this. We've also got the Mercedes and a couple of other cars. I'll link to all the cars in the description for what's in the game. What I would say with the handling, it's still quite similar to how it was in the previous versions of Rennsport. So there's not been like a massive change in the underlying handling. So with that, I'd say for me, I think it drives a lot better than simulators or racing games like Forza, Gran Turismo, but I wouldn't say it's as nice to drive as like Le Mans Ultimate, or certainly nowhere near as nice to drive for me as the original Assetto Corsa, which in my view is like the big daddy of sim physics and force feedback. It is totally drivable though, like you can really easily navigate it around the track. The car's understandable, it's very forgiving. You're not getting like crazy slides and weird spin stuff that you can't deal with. So it's a very drivable simulator. On the force feedback side, you get nice force feedback for braking and feeling like the car loading up the suspension, dipping down when you get on the brakes. I'd actually say that's one of the things it does better than many simulators, that braking tug on the wheel. R-Factor 2 was pretty good at that, but yeah, that's really nice. But you don't really get that good a feel for the fronts and the actual load of the fronts and the understeer feel. So it can be really hard to feel how much grip the front tyres have and where the understeer is. So for me, I'd really like more force feedback detail for that. And I think that's where this is really lacking, and actually really quite similar to LMU in that way, in that you just lack that front end feel and lack the feel of grip in general. But then I think the sort of forgiving handling of the car really helps make it that's not too much of an issue. Like it's very drivable despite those aspects of the force feedback. One aspect of the force feedback that's really great though, and again this is very similar to sort of R-Factor 2 LMU, is the road texture and vibrations, curbing, bumps, all those kind of details are super clear. So if you really like a sort of feel for what the suspension's doing and like that immersive quality, then this is really great for that type of force feedback. For me, that's not the most useful force feedback to drive from, but I can see how people like that from an immersive perspective. If they could get the front end feel in this, like how AC1 has, or even AMS1 or Live for Speed, if they could get that front end feel in, I think the force feedback in this would be absolutely up there with the best. Like that's all it's really missing. So yeah, you've got a really nice, I'd say, drivable sim, some really nice content, and it's also on the console and on PC. I just feel like it lacks that full panache and the full polish, though the version we're playing right now isn't the version that you'll be playing when it comes out. We'll have to try that out when it launches, and we'll let you know if it's changed from what I'm trying here. But those are the things at the moment that I think are a bit missing from the simulator, or where it is right now at this event. Now, separate to this, the actual content you can see here with the cars and the track, we also have the single player championship mode, and that's really quite interesting. I think this is something that's lacking in a lot of simulators at the moment, is that there's no real solid single player stuff, and I think there's a lot of sim racers that are really desperate for that single player type gameplay. Not everyone wants to sweat it out in online lobbies, and there's plenty of sims that do that, but lots of people want to have a game that they can come back from work from, jump in and do a race, and do that in the context of a championship. So they now have an updated championship mode in this, where you will be able to do that, and really nicely, when you're going through the championships, your performance is then stored as a score, and you can then see how well you did in the championship compared to your friends. So even though it's a single player racing against AI and offline, you still can have that element of seeing how good you do against your other mate, or the international players of the game. So they've managed to incorporate some competition even in the single player to some extent. Also, it's quite nice that the championship is a bit reminiscent of what you have with, if you remember, Dirt Rally, where they will have championships that, for the single player, that will change over time. So you'll have like 5 days or something to complete one championship, and when that 5 days is up, that's it. There'll be a new championship put on. So that gives you a reason to load up the game, see what the current championship is, maybe play through it, and then get your score, load it up again, and there might be another championship there that you can then compete against other people with, or just casually play. We were told as well that you can, if there's a previous championship with a certain car or make that you enjoyed, you'll be able to jump in and do that again, but it might not have the online scoring with it. So I think you've got there something with actual single player gameplay. At this event, they've also said that they're really working heavily on doing new AI for Rennsport, but at the moment they're still using their current AI system, and so it's not as ideal as they want it. one of the things that they've been really clear at this event is that Rennsport themselves, the developers, are aware that, you know, it's not perfect, and they're also very keen on saying that this is a constantly in development project. This is not a we've made it and we're dropping it title. This is a we're continuing to build it type of title. So with that as well, they've also said, as I drive into the wall, off-road works well. They've also said that they're going to be doing expanding. The intention is to expand mod tools and to make it so that people can really easily create tracks for this title using Unreal Engine, but then also mod tools that the Rennsport developers will make public. So in theory, it could end up being one of the easier sims to build your own custom track for the simulator and get it in there. And also what would be quite different to other simulators is that people won't have to download those tracks from separate websites. The idea is that you'll be able to just download the tracks inside of the game. So no fiddling around, just drive whatever track you want, either online in their competition system if they like it enough, or maybe just with your friends in a small server. It's all up in the air at the moment. They're saying they're doing lots of things. I kind of still feel at this point in time, it still feels to me like it's a game heavily in development, but also a game that's like a game as a service. So it's interesting to see it move forwards. Loving this new content. Love seeing more tracks like this, and I like that they are including proper race cars in here rather than boring road cars. In my opinion, I know people like road cars, but I think your proper vintage GT cars are where it's really at. But yeah, that's a sort of look at what's going on with Rennsport at this point in time. Really interested to see when this update actually drops, and we'll test it out, as I say, on our home computer. It's really hard at these types of events to really fully gauge how things feel and operate, so we'll have to test it with our own equipment and do a good menu stream.
I cannot say this, but we have a look at this beautiful back of the car and sniffing on it.
To finish off the day, we did an influencer race where the influencers were paired with actual competent esports drivers. Sadly for Dyra McCormack, it was paired with me, but that did mean we had a good chance to win, and as you can imagine, things went perfectly and I didn't in any way let down the esports driver.
Cormack looking over the shoulder of the avid tea drinker himself as Gaming Muscle behind the wheel, 3 wide on the run down into the second Mole San Jacade, and sneaking away all the way through comes, I believe, Kike Oliveira in the number 11, making that work for BS competition in that number 11 car. And well, that was confident. Let's go with that.
Yeah, it certainly was. And, you know, it's the problem, unfortunately, for Oliveira is that the gaps created in front in the first few laps in this race have really been too much to overhaul. But look at this, having a go into Mulsanne corner, late on the brakes, down the inside. Oh, but spins up on the exit. Spins up the tyres when you're on the inside like that. You're so tight to the inside, you've got to be careful getting back on the power again. And he's shaking his head, Gavin Russell. That was a bit of an error, but never mind. Nobody saw it. It's fine.
Now, the race might have not gone so well, but check out this high-level esports sim racing driver swap. I've had to slow the footage down so you can appreciate it. Dara, the easy lift out, smooth rotation, beautifully done. Look at that, and then look at this entry. The control of the weight, superb. Lower the back end down, hands to the front, hands on the wheel, left foot onto the brake pedal, reach to the pocket. Have I dropped my keys? Have I got my phone? I'm not sure. I need a cup of tea. Hands back on the wheel, and we are ready to go. I think I'm going to be driving in the real Le Mans 24 anytime soon. Though obviously the influencer event is the most important event, they also had the Esports Heroes Summit Cup taking place, with Porsche Coanda, after a little bit of a break from victory, managing to turn things around and bring home the top prize. Something not easy when you look at the talent pool that was at this event. So, following on from this year's Rennsport Summit, will 2026 be the year that they finally managed to connect the dots? Single player for the jumping casuals, ranked multiplayer for the sweaters, esports events for the aliens, and vintage cars for those of us that should probably be playing Train Simulator. The proof will be in the pudding. And one thing's for sure, Rennsport are working hard and it doesn't look like they're giving up on things anytime soon.
Schneeballschlacht!